Ladies, let me tell you something. You've been on your knees long enough. Not because prayer doesn't work, not because God hasn't heard you, but because you've mistaken divine patience for divine permission. You keep asking God to change a man who was never sent to build with you. You cry, you fast, you plead. Lord, soften his heart while God is whispering, daughter, why do you stay where I've already pulled you out in spirit? You're fighting for someone who doesn't even know what you're worth. And the tragedy isn't that he won't change. The tragedy is that you've changed for the worse waiting on him. You were once bold, brilliant, on fire for your dreams. Now look at you, second guessing yourself, apologizing for shining, dimming your light because he gets intimidated. You're not in love, you're in limbo, you're not building, you're bleeding. And I know it's hard to hear. I know you believe the vision, the one where he grow up, become the man you prayed for, rise to your level. But baby, hear me. Just because you saw the potential doesn't mean he's the promise. You thought consistency would come after chaos. You thought loyalty would be rewarded, but he doesn't grow because you stay. He grows when you leave. Sometimes the blessing is the breakup. You keep saying, but I see the good in him. But does he see the God in you? There's a woman listening right now. You're tired, you're quiet, but your soul is loud. It's screaming for peace. You've slept next to him, but you've never felt lonely. You've begged with your spirit, God, change him. But the real question is, why do you keep ignoring the answer? You prayed, God answered. You just didn't like the answer. He ain't confused. He's comfortable. Comfortable knowing you'll pray for him harder than he'll fight for you. Comfortable knowing your heart is loyal even when his habits are toxic. But don't confuse endurance with destiny. Don't call dysfunction faithfulness. Love isn't supposed to hurt more than it heals. Some of you are in love with his potential and God is trying to introduce you to your purpose. You say, but he has a good heart, and maybe he does. But tell me something. How long will you starve your soul on the crumbs of maybe one day? You've made yourself small in rooms you were meant to own. You've shrunk your dreams to fit his insecurities. You've called it love, but it's really fear. Fear of starting over, fear of being alone, fear that maybe no one else will want you. But let me tell you the truth, being alone isn't the worst thing. Being mishandled while you're trying to prove your worth, now that's hell. You were never supposed to build a man. You were supposed to build with a man. And any man that makes you beg for bare minimum love, any man that makes you feel like your softness is a burden, any man that shows you his patterns and still asks for your patience, he doesn't need a girl, he needs growth. And growth doesn't happen with you kneeling at the altar of his comfort zone. You can't pray a man into loving you the way you deserve. You can't fast your way into his maturity. You can't cry enough tears to flood his ego into compassion. You are not a rehab center. You are not his pastor. You are not his mother. You are a woman of God, and sometimes the most anointed thing you can do is walk away. God isn't ignoring your prayers. He's waiting on your decision. Because here's the secret. Sometimes the answer to your prayer for his change is your exit. God didn't call you to suffer in circles while calling it spiritual warfare. He called you to walk in clarity. You can love someone and still leave. You can forgive someone and still walk away. You can honor what you had and still say, this is not my forever. Don't let your loyalty become your prison. Don't let your hope turn into self-harm. Every time you gave him another chance, you took one away from yourself. And I get it. You stayed because you believed in him. But now it's time to believe in you. Believe in the woman who deserves peace without pain, respect without reminders, love without losing herself. You've prayed, you've stayed, you've hoped, but now it's time to move. Because you'll never find the man who honors you while you're still trying to resurrect the one who broke you. You think healing will come if he finally sees your value, but healing starts when you finally do. You've made him your mission, but your mission is bigger than fixing a broken man who doesn't even see that you're an answered prayer. You are the woman he will regret, the woman he will remember when he's finally ready, but by then you'll be too far into your glow up to care. There's a version of you on the other side of this heartbreak. She's free, she's focused, she's fierce. She no longer cries in the shower. She no longer doubts if she's enough. She no longer prays for potential. She walks in purpose. And one day, You'll look back at this season and you won't even recognize the woman who begged for breadcrumbs. You'll say, thank you, God, for not letting him change. Because if he had, you might have stayed, and staying would have killed the woman you were born to become. So no, don't pray for his change. Pray for your strength. Pray for your clarity. Pray for your courage to leave even when you still love him. Because real love doesn't just feel good, it does good. Stop asking God for a sign. That breakup, that betrayal, that silence, that was your sign. Stop waiting on him to value you. You set the value. You are the prize. You are the storm and the calm. You are the vision he couldn't handle. And when you finally walk away, don't look back hoping he'll chase you. Look forward, because your destiny is never behind you. So the next time you're tempted to whisper, Lord, please change him, try this instead. Lord, change me. Change what I tolerate. Change what I believe I deserve. Change what I chase. Give me the strength to walk away from anything that keeps me from who you've called me to be. Because he heard you. He answered, now, daughter, walk away. You ever wonder why the tears come so easily now? It's because your soul is exhausted from carrying what was never yours to fix. You've been the glue for a man who was never trying to stay together. You've been the peacemaker in a war he keeps starting. And the worst part, you've convinced yourself that's love. But love doesn't force you to choose between your joy and his comfort. Love doesn't keep you in a permanent state of confusion. Real love doesn't silence your needs and magnify your sacrifices. You deserve more than the apology that never comes, more than waiting for him to notice what's been in front of him this whole time. You deserve a partner, not a project. You've put your whole self on hold, waiting for his evolution. But growth that must be begged for is not growth. It's manipulation in disguise. When someone knows exactly how far they can push you, they stop putting in effort, not because they don't know what you want, but because they know you won't leave. And that's where the power shifts. The moment you realize you don't have to explain your worth one more time. The moment you stop performing for love and start walking in dignity. A man who values you will not need repeated instructions on how to honor you. He won't leave you questioning if you're too emotional, too ambitious, too much. He'll be present not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. But here's the hard truth. The longer you stay in what drains you, the longer you delay what's destined for you. Your heart is not a battleground for broken boys playing at manhood. Your life is not a waiting room for someone else's awakening. You've outgrown the version of yourself that tolerates silence instead of answers, that accepts apologies with no change in behavior, that mistakes chaos for passion. Peace may feel unfamiliar at first, but that's only because you've normalized struggle. Healing isn't light. It doesn't always come with closure or clean endings. Sometimes it comes quietly through the decision to stop explaining your pain to someone committed to misunderstanding you. It's in the moment you choose to reclaim your mornings. No more crying into your coffee. No more rehearsing what you should have said. It's in the moment you get dressed for you, walk tall for you, smile again without checking if he's watching. That is the quiet revolution of walking away, not with bitterness, not with rage, but with a sacred soul deep knowing, I deserve better, and I'm not afraid to go find it. Let him sit in the echo of your absence. Let the silence remind him of the light he couldn't carry. Let the stillness show you just how beautiful your own company can be. You won't need revenge. You won't need explanations. You won't need him to suddenly wake up, because peace will begin to feel like home, because your glow will no longer depend on someone else's gain, because your spirit will finally stop running on fumes. Your next level requires fewer apologies and more boundaries. It demands that you stop editing yourself to be digestible for people who lack the palate for real love. Stop performing for people who never clap. Stop waiting on validation from someone who can't even validate their own soul. You are not a mirror for his insecurities. You are a masterpiece. Unfinished maybe, but never unworthy. He doesn't get to say he lost a good woman. He gave her away every time he ignored her tears, laughed at her dreams, minimized her efforts. He will remember you in fragments, in the way no one else makes his house feel like a home, in the way silence will scream louder in your absence, in the way his future relationships will crumble under the pressure of comparing them to you. But you'll be too busy building building peace, building legacy, building a life where you no longer beg to be chosen. You won't even hate him because the version of you who stayed, she died so you could be reborn. And your rebirth will be so glorious, so unapologetically whole, it'll terrify the woman you once were. There's no trophy for enduring heartbreak. There's no award for staying where you're not celebrated. There's only a future, and it's been waiting for you to finally choose you. You don't need to wait for rock bottom. Sometimes all it takes is a moment of honesty. This isn't love. This is endurance dressed as loyalty. And once you see it for what it is, you can't unsee it. This isn't your forever. This was just your reminder. A reminder that you don't have to trade your peace for company, that you don't have to shrink for love to fit, that you are already whole, and wholeness doesn't beg to be understood. So go ahead, pack the tears, gather your strength, tie up your dignity, and walk out of the life that keeps you spinning in circles. You've done enough. You've tried enough. You've prayed enough. Now it's time to trust yourself enough to leave. Healing begins where denial ends. You've excused the distance. You've rewritten his silence as stress. You've explained away the disrespect, told yourself it's just a phase, just a bad mood, just how he is. But deep down, you know he doesn't lack the capacity. He lacks the commitment. A man who's serious about you won't leave you guessing. He won't make you rehearse conversations in your head. He won't punish you with detachment or reward you with breadcrumbs. He'll show up consistently, fully, without hesitation. And no, not perfectly, but with presence, with effort, with a desire to meet you in the middle. Because love that's real doesn't require detective work. You've spent so much time investigating his actions, decoding his patterns, trying to make sense of his contradictions, that you forgot your peace was never meant to be conditional. You are not hard to love, but you've tried to love someone whose heart is locked behind doors only he has the key to. And no matter how kind, loyal, or forgiving you are, you can't turn a locked door into a gateway. You've waited for him to choose you. But the truth is, he already did. He just didn't choose you well. And every time you stayed, hoping things would shift, you taught him that your standards had a back door. You don't need another apology. You don't need another temporary change. You need a life that doesn't require emotional gymnastics just to feel seen. The most dangerous thing you can do as a woman is confuse your power with your patience. You weren't made to suffer just because you're strong. You weren't built to tolerate mediocrity simply because you're loyal. You were created to rise, not remain. And there's a cost to staying small, to bending until you break, to watering dead ground and calling it hope. That cost, your self-respect, your time, your glow. When you dim yourself for someone who fears your light, you become a version of yourself you don't even recognize. You start saying yes when you want to say no. You start smiling through disappointment. You start clinging to potential like it's proof. But potential is only powerful when it's partnered with action. And love without effort is nothing more than lip service. You can't fix someone who benefits from staying broken. You can't teach someone to value what they take for granted. And you shouldn't have to convince anyone of your worth when your very presence is the blessing. You're not asking for too much. You're just asking the wrong person. You want communication. He gives avoidance. You want presence. He gives excuses. You want a teammate. He gives you tasks. And then you wonder if maybe you're being dramatic. Maybe you're too sensitive. Maybe you expect too much. But tell me this, since when did self-respect become too much? Since when did emotional safety become a luxury? Since when did basic decency feel like a privilege? You've been conditioned to endure, but endurance without alignment is self-betrayal. You've spent nights rewriting his story, painting over red flags with pastel dreams. But no matter how beautiful your vision is, a broken foundation will collapse every single time. And here's the secret. You don't need him to become better for you to become whole. You're not broken. You're buried under disappointments, beneath repeated letdowns, beneath your own ability to endure what should have been released. So this is the moment you dig yourself out, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with clarity, because clarity is the beginning of freedom. And freedom is where healing begins. You no longer have to question the silence. You no longer have to twist your truth to fit inside his story. You get to reclaim your narrative. And you don't need his permission to do it. Stop imagining how great it could be if he changed. Start building the life that doesn't depend on him changing at all. Your destiny doesn't hinge on his potential. It's powered by your decision, and decisions are sacred. You're not losing a soulmate. You're releasing a cycle. You're not walking away from love. You're walking toward real love. There will be days when you miss the comfort of the chaos. Don't go back. There will be nights when loneliness tries to whisper that pain is better than silence. Don't answer. There will be moments when your heart says, maybe this time will be different. Don't believe it. History is the greatest predictor of future behavior, and patterns don't lie. If he wanted to, he would. If he valued you, he'd show it. If he saw your heart, he wouldn't keep wounding it. So let today be the last time you lower your standards to match someone else's convenience. Let today be the beginning of your becoming, because the woman you're meant to be, she doesn't beg, she doesn't shrink, she doesn't explain herself to people who choose confusion over clarity. She rises, she walks, she heals, and one day soon, you'll stand in front of a mirror and see her fully, finally. Unapologetically, there's a strength you haven't even touched yet. It's the strength that comes when you stop explaining your worth. It's the power that surfaces when silence becomes your boundary. It's the fire that ignites the moment you release what was never built to stay. You spent months, maybe years, anchoring yourself to a hope that never matured. Not because you're foolish, but because you believe in people deeper than they believe in themselves. But love without accountability becomes a prison, and you were never meant to serve a life sentence for someone else's immaturity. You've mastered the art of endurance, now master the art of release. You stayed long enough to prove your loyalty, now leave to prove your healing. There is no badge of honor in becoming emotionally bankrupt for someone who refuses to invest. You owe it to your future self to break the cycle, not pass it down. You know what's harder than walking away, staying somewhere that keeps unmaking you day after day. Your light dims by degrees, so slowly you almost miss it. But the mirror knows. Your smile's lost its spark. Your laughter doesn't reach your eyes. Your dreams feel distant, like something you used to believe in before you started choosing him over yourself. This is not about blaming him. This is about reclaiming you. The version of you that laughed freely, that danced without shame, that dreamed out loud. She's not gone. She's just buried under everything you tolerated. Your soul is craving restoration, not attention, not romance, not empty promises. Restoration of your peace, your purpose, your voice. Let him go, not because you hate him, but because you finally realized your heart deserves more than half effort and hollow words. Letting go is not weakness. It's wisdom. It's understanding that growth and comfort can't coexist. That peace often comes at the price of walking away from what you once prayed for. You wanted it to work. You gave your best. But what's the cost of constantly showing up for someone who keeps choosing comfort over growth? Relationships aren't built on hopes alone. They're built on actions, truth, reciprocity. Love that demands silence isn't love. It's control. You've spoken enough. You've cried enough. You've waited long enough. You don't need a new conversation. It starts with a woman who finally chooses herself. No more staying out of obligation. No more holding space for potential. No more sacrificing your soul for proximity. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is disappear from the places that once made you feel invisible. Discomfort is a signal. The ache in your chest isn't weakness. It's clarity. The tightness in your throat isn't confusion. It's truth rising to the surface. Stop swallowing your voice just to keep someone else from feeling inadequate. You weren't made to walk on eggshells. You were made to stand on sacred ground, rooted, whole, and unshaken. And I know it's terrifying to walk away with no guarantees, to leave behind the version of love you clung to, even when it left you empty. But the unfamiliar is where healing lives. It's where the woman you're becoming begins to breathe again. She doesn't need convincing. She doesn't ask for permission. She walks with God and doesn't apologize for the footprints she leaves behind. You will lose some people, but you will find yourself. You will grieve what never became, but you will gain what never left. Your intuition, your integrity, your inner fire. There is a world waiting for you on the other side of endurance. It's quiet, not chaotic, soft, not sharp, grounded, not gaslit. You won't have to prove anything there. You'll just be enough, worthy, seen. And one day when someone new steps into your life, someone who doesn't need a sermon to understand respect, someone who shows up because they want to, not because they're guilted into it, someone who celebrates your strength without dimming your shine, you'll know why it never worked before. You'll thank the heartbreak for introducing you to wholeness. You'll thank the silence for teaching you how to hear yourself again. You'll thank the storm for cleansing your path. Because pain, when it's no longer your identity, becomes your teacher. And your lesson was never about how to hold on tighter. It was about how to finally let go. No more rewriting reality to protect someone else's ego. No more covering wounds just to keep the illusion of we're okay. No more burning your own joy to keep someone else warm. You're allowed to outgrow people. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to walk away from a story that no longer honors your evolution. There's nothing selfish about choosing peace. There's nothing disloyal about wanting more. There's nothing wrong with growing in a direction that scares you. In fact, that fear is often a compass. If it shakes you, it's stretching you. If it hurts, it's healing something deeper. And if it ends for your protection. So breathe. You're not broken. You're just beginning. This isn't your ending. It's your unlocking. You're walking into a future where you no longer chase love. It finds you. Where you no longer perform for presence, you embody it. Where you no longer ask for clarity, you are clarity. Every tear watered the woman you're becoming. Every unanswered text taught you stillness. Every sleepless night shaped your resilience. And now you rise. Not because you have all the answers, but because you finally asked the right question. What does it cost me to stay? You counted the memories. Now count your peace. Now count your dreams. Now count your self-worth. And when you do, you'll find the courage was there all along. Quiet, waiting, watching for the day you'd stop settling and start walking. Walk into healing, walk into wisdom, walk into wholeness. This is your permission. This is your beginning. This is your return to yourself. Closure doesn't always come with explanations. Sometimes it arrives when you stop waiting for them to understand the damage. Sometimes it's the quiet decision to reclaim what was lost in pieces. Your joy, your clarity, your self-respect. And most times, closure isn't a conversation. It's a decision. You don't need one last talk. You don't need mutual understanding. You don't need them to feel your pain in order to move forward. Growth is often lonely. Healing is always personal. The person who hurt you cannot be the one to restore you. The apology you keep hoping for, you don't need it to be whole. The recognition you ache for, you don't need it to validate your worth. Because nothing someone else can give you will ever match what you already carry within. You're not chasing revenge. You're not seeking revenge. You're building peace, and that's the most radical kind of freedom there is. Let him stay where he chose to be. Let him fumble the memory of you in rooms where he'll one day whisper your name and realize he lost something rare. But don't you linger. Don't you pause your healing waiting for justice that may never come. Some people will never say sorry. Some people will sleep just fine after breaking your heart. And that's okay. Let them, because what they discarded wasn't your value. It was their capacity. What they mishandled wasn't your identity. It was their opportunity. You've already outgrown that chapter. You're not who you were when you met them. And thank God for that. You're wiser now, softer but sharper, quieter but louder where it matters. Less eager to please, more committed to peace. You don't have to be hard to be respected. You don't have to be guarded to be safe. You just have to be done with settling for less than what God wrote into your destiny. And you are done begging for reciprocity, done teaching the same lessons over and over, done playing counselor, cheerleader, cook, lover, and emotional garbage bin just to keep someone around. The one who's for you won't drain you, just to be near you. They won't mistake your grace for weakness. They won't weaponize your compassion to excuse their neglect. They'll see you clearly, fully, intentionally. And until that person arrives, your job is to become the woman who no longer settles for potential when she was born for purpose. Stop explaining your intuition. Stop defending your boundaries. Stop reinterpreting red flags into spiritual assignment. You don't need more patience. You need more discernment. You don't need more grace for his growth. You need more grace for your own. The truth is, you always knew. You knew in the moment you cried yourself to sleep with no explanation. You knew when your laughter started sounding forced. You knew when your peace became conditional on his moods. You knew, but you weren't ready. Now you are. Now you know that love doesn't require translation, that energy never lies, that God never calls you to a place where you have to abandon yourself to stay. You're not bitter, you're awakening. You're not cold, you're cautious. You're not guarded, you're grounded. And it's okay to admit that you held on too long, that you confused endurance with destiny, that you loved deeply even when it hurt. That's not shameful, that's human. But growth means taking the lesson without carrying the guilt. It means recognizing the role you played and releasing the weight of it. It means grieving the version of you who stayed too long and celebrating the one who finally decided to leave. Not because you stopped caring, but because you started healing. You'll be tempted to check his page, to wonder if he's changed, to question if he treats her better. Don't. He may upgrade his habits. He may even mimic what you once prayed for. But none of that changes what happened. And none of that means you were wrong to walk away. He's not your measuring stick. You are. You'll know you're healing when you stop comparing, stop explaining, and stop chasing closure in people who only gave you confusion. You'll know you're free when your peace is louder than your need for proof. And the world may not understand the courage it took to walk when you wanted to stay, to love yourself more than your fear of starting over, to choose solitude over settling. But you will. Your future with generations after you will. Because when you heal, you break a cycle. When you rise, you change the lineage. When you choose differently, you become the woman they said didn't exist. You become the story someone else needed. The evidence that love doesn't have to mean love. The proof that wholeness is possible. So this is the final breath of that chapter. Exhale the regret. Inhale the clarity. Release what no longer aligns. Restore what always belonged to you. Your peace, your joy, your divine authority. You're not a victim. You're a vessel. You're not fragile. You're refined. You're not forgotten. You are favored. There's nothing weak about walking away. There's nothing shameful about choosing yourself. There's nothing wrong with rewriting your story, but the raw, real, soul-deep decision to start again, wiser, stronger, softer, smarter. And that woman of God, that is how you rise.